All right. I'm going to dive deeper into walking through our Sales Hub specific training guide and action plan. And this one is very much centered around the sales workspace because it's such a prevalent push from HubSpot to drive everyone that's using HubSpot for Sales and Sales Pro to be utilizing leads. And it does make their sales life a lot easier from a day-to-day standpoint, keeping them centralized. That all of our clients are set up in it, so this is a bit more geared towards that. But the concept remains that what we're walking through is by now they have their account set up, and we walk them through the settings of what needed to happen there, or admins had the same. Additionally, we walk through like navigation, what is everything in here that you can be aware of, and know that tasks are here. But now, if you think about that, they understand companies, contacts, leads. They understand HubSpot as a whole. So now my job is to get them into their specific training paths for their jobs and their roles. And so for sales, and I'll have to move my little recorder here, we're putting them to the tab for the sales section of HubSpot right here. And we're covering really everything within here, primarily the sales workspace. And we're going through best practices, tips, and tricks, and how do you keep yourself as centralized as possible? Because if you have your preview set up and your views are good and your leads are being created and being pushed over and your lead pipeline is set up kind of how we set it up where all your stages are automatic, you can really live in guided actions and tasks and feed on the summary tab and get most of what you need and have a couple additional views like not in open lead stages, open, not in sequence, no next scheduled activity as the filters, and create that as a view for easy sequence enrollment, things like that to make their jobs a bit easier in the sales workspace, but it covers what is the sales workspace in a lot of detail. And then it goes through each of these kind of major, again, target accounts, prospecting agent, documents, meeting scheduler. It goes through an overview of all of these tools in detail and links them to where they can go to see more of that. So when they're reading this, they read it, they click it, it takes them right to it. So it's in their sidekick when they're experiencing this. That's what we try to build all of our action plan templates with the concept that we want to keep you in the sidekick and on that action plan as much as we can, not really trying to take you to cards or other areas unless the context is too dense or there's a lot of maps or things like that that just can't be fit well into the body of a task. But we're using the link on the task to really drive them to where we want them to see as they get a brief description of it and they can explore and play with any of these. And then we go into some of the supporting tools because these do not live necessarily in this tab, but they are key supporting tools, and that's lists, tasks, templates, playbooks when it comes to sales, and then the management tools we broke into a separate section. It's the forecast, coaching playlist, and sales analytics because, again, we may delete this whole section from time to time if it's an end user going through it that has no need for this because these three tools are primarily for managers, sales leaders, executives, and could be leveraged, but it just depends who's being assigned the plan and what we're customizing it for when we create it to the first plan before we convert it over into a client-specific one. So what we try to do with all of these, and I'll just reiterate it again, is build them at the general template level to where I create a plan, customize it for whatever client, which that client could have multiple uses. There could be a sales leadership training that does include this and one that doesn't, right? But then once we have that understanding, we dive into using the sales workspace. How do you ensure all your prospects are leads? How do you make sure all the contacts you have that could be leads are leads and give them guidance, advice, and how to use filters to do that easily? Leveraging views and how you can make that an even easier routine to find those people and make sure the leads exist. Then we go through the sales workspace starting with the summary tab, hitting queues, hitting on tasks, hitting on the leveraging guided actions and examples of those and ones that you can use easily. Calendar and schedule in that right side, the feed, and then suggested lead views. So we actually give them the lead views that I was kind of mentioning earlier with the example filters that they can go, including the structure of columns that we suggest for those. And then we take them to the next tab in the sales workspace, the prospects, and we dive deeper to lead queues versus the summary queues because those are very different functions and they work very differently on both. They view differently, they function differently. Target accounts in the sales workspace, creating views to prioritize leads, sales-specific leads, leveraging last activity, next activity properties for quick scheduling, creation of tasks for people who don't have them or are not enrolled in sequence, mass enrollment to sequence through a couple different methods that you can use. Creating and utilizing views on the deal side. So now we're moving to the deals tab. And then for tasks and everything, because they know and it does call out in the sales workspace, you have these other places where you can just go to your tasks or your schedule or your dashboard. But really, we've taught them about tasks at the summary level and not elsewhere. because we want them using the sales workspace. And they already learned about where tasks live from a CRM side over here to go to all tasks. But they also live right here. So, again, we're kind of trying to focus it on the sales workspace in this one. And then we're going to utilizing supporting sales tools. And this is a deeper dive into creating, managing, enrolling, and maintaining sequences, using and making phone calls or meetings, tasks, and how to do this from a best practice standpoint, which is staying on the record you are and keeping the task there instead of trying to go elsewhere. Like, how can I keep you in the place you are to idealize the workflow and the journey? Notes and creating notes. All of this is under the same guise of I'm talking to a sales team member, and their biggest win in HubSpot is keeping them in the same place that they're doing everything and making it very simple to not leave, get the information they need, create, schedule, or send, or do whatever action they need in one place. That's where a lot of this is centered around and focused on, specifically from the sales workspace, but showing them where else they can do it. Same thing with filters and views. And then we go through tips and tricks. So like, what would we suggest to bookmark for an easy 1, 2, 3? Staying where you work. I keep reiterating that, but man, we cover that in views. And we call out several times throughout this that if something seems wrong or you have to click more than once to find some information and it's happening more than once, tell us and we'll adjust the view. Don't just sit and think that HubSpot sucks. Then we go into deep dive on leveraging Breeze in the sales workspace. Each of these are connected to cards that we dive significantly deeper on, and videos. And this is just to highlight 3 that we think the biggest sales, like, you don't want to give them the whole pie of what it can be used, or they won't use it for anything. So we give them the 3 biggest ones, but we have other ones that we add from our training library that we could add in and that may be relevant to the client. So this is the template, but we may, from our library of trainings, add more when we're customizing. Full debrief on downloading, utilizing the mobile app, what you can utilize it on, adding it to your keyboard to use templates, links, snippets, and text, reducing data entry, giving examples of why and how you can leverage the mobile app in real use cases that we use internally as well as externally and with clients that has been valuable. For this is really specifically for the people who say HubSpot feels like it's extra work for me. They value from this a lot. And can manage their leads there. So that's our Sales Hub one. A little bit longer video here, but this is one of my favorites, the marketing and the journey. So hope you like it. Hope this makes sense. And if you have any more questions on this one, let me know. I'm happy to go further.